Welcome to today's edition of the Statler Financial Radio Show. Your financial security is our business. Have a question for the team? Call today, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188.
Welcome, everyone, to the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm your host, Danielle J. Martin. Today, we're talking about how much money does the average person spend in retirement? Really, how much will you spend in retirement? So join with me here is Philip Statler of Statler Financial Services, and we're going to look at just how much money that you may need in retirement and talk with Philip about why just saving for retirement is only half the battle. So let's start this conversation today about spending. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average retiree spends about $5,000 a month. Now, some will spend more, some might spend less, but either way, let's dive into what it takes to create an overall retirement plan.
Absolutely, Danielle. So, we look at different things and why they're important. So let's remember that there's continued to be rising costs and longer lifespans. And those things can mean that your money has to work harder and more efficiently than ever before. We continue to see costs going up. And so we got to be prepared for that. The other thing is the old rule of thumb, saving a certain amount of money is really outdated, Danielle, because today it's not about what you have saved. It's more about creating that monthly paycheck that's going to last you for the rest of your life, because we don't want that cash to stop coming in and you still got another 2, 3, 4, 5 years to live. That would be a problem. The other thing I think people don't look at is Social Security alone. It's not going to cut it, folks. The average Social Security payment is a little less than $2,000 a month. And so, if we spend $5,000 on average, then that leaves a pretty big gap for most families to try to fill. And so we want to look at ways that we can do that. And I think, Danielle, the real question isn't how much do I need to save? It's more spinning it around a different way and looking at how much monthly income can my savings generate. That's really what we're looking at, is what can we generate and how much money can I generate to make sure that my lifestyle doesn't have to change.
A lot of people are asking these same questions. And so I think one of the things we have to think about, Philip, is what are some of the biggest risks that we need to prepare for when it comes to creating that monthly paycheck in retirement?
Well, I think one of the number one risks is inflation. And we've seen high inflation the last couple of years, but even low inflation, in years where we have low inflation, it will slowly eat away at your buying power. And that means that your fixed income will buy less each and every year. The other thing, the second risk is unexpected costs. Think about healthcare, long-term care, or major home repairs. A surprise expense can potentially derail a poorly built plan. I know I've got some clients now. We're working through that process now. We've got some long-term care issues. And we built a plan, and thankfully that plan is going to account for the added cost of some of that long-term care. And then finally, the third risk is longevity risk, the risk of outliving all your money. A 30-year retirement now is common, and your income needs to last just as long as you do. So those are some things I think we got to look at.
And for many people who have these questions and don't know where to start, we want you to reach out to Statler and the team, Statler Financial Services and the team today. Here's the number to call, 863-877-1188. There's no cost. There's no obligation to speak with the team. Get some of your questions answered today. We're talking with Philip today about ways to help create a retirement paycheck for life. And so one of the things we have to also think about is, what is one of the most important first steps, Philip? There's a lot of things to consider, but what's that first step?
Well, I think, Danielle, the first thing is it starts with a plan. You should have a strategy that accounts for all your income sources, Social Security, pensions, and investments, and then map out how to draw them down efficiently. And so that's number one. Secondly is look at creating multiple income streams. And folks, this could include things like annuities for generating income, dividend paying stocks, or even optimizing your Social Security benefits, or maybe it's a combination of all three to put it into perspective. The goal is to build a financial engine that can pay you every month, no matter what the market's doing. That's what can help you create financial stability. And Danielle, it's a perfect time to become more educated on what it takes to create a true retirement income strategy. And that's why I'm here. That is my purpose. I want to see everybody that heads into retirement have a plan in place so that they're confident about what their retirement years are going to look like. Folks, to get started, give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost, no-obligation phone call where we'll talk about where you are now. You can also, for you guys that like to text, you can text the word visit to that same number, 863-877-1188. Hey, I look forward to hearing from you.
If someone is listening and they have different income sources already, Philip, is it still important to have a plan?
Absolutely. You need to know your number, not a generic average, but your specific income goal based on the lifestyle that you want to have in retirement. That's the starting point. That's what you got to look at. So don't guess. Don't hope that you got the right number. We help our clients calculate exactly what they'll need, factoring in everything from taxes to healthcare. Then we build a plan to bridge the gap that's going to happen between what you have coming in and what you need. We specialize in creating durable, tax-efficient income strategies. And folks, listen, the sooner you create this income plan, the more confident your future could be. The window to get it done is right now.
I know we're talking a lot about what to do next and what steps to take. There's a lot to consider here. But Philip, what is the one takeaway for listeners who are worried that they might not have enough when it comes to planning for retirement?
Well, it's never too late, but you can't afford to wait too long because, again, hope is not a strategy. Hoping that you have a good retirement is not going to get you there. Having a strategy in place is going to give you that comfort, that confidence of what you're working through and what you're working for. Your retirement income, folks, listen, it is too important to leave to chance. And less than 30% of the folks out there actually have a written retirement income plan. You need it. You want to have it heading into retirement. It's designed to help deliver predictable income day in and day out, Danielle.
If you have questions about your own retirement plan, this is where we encourage you to call Philip and the team at Statler Financial Services right now today. Get your questions answered to your retirement questions. You don't have to plan for retirement alone. It's a really great place to start. So here's that number to call, 863-877-1188. 863-877-1188. Really quickly, Philip, while we have a few more minutes here, if you could remind our listeners what that core retirement design looks like in that first appointment when they meet with you.
Absolutely, Danielle. So our core retirement design helps you design that retirement you always dreamed of. We look at three key components: risk, taxes, and income. All three are vitally important to your retirement. And it starts with a simple 30-minute phone call where we'll walk through where you are now and where you want to be when you head into retirement, or where you want to be now that you are retired. These are important things to keep in the back of your head, the things you need to remember, things we want to take care of. Having that written retirement income plan, folks, it just gives you the confidence to know that you're on the right track to that retirement you always dreamed of. To get started, it's simple. It's a phone call. 863-877-1188. Give my team a call. We'll get you on the calendar. We'll schedule that 30-minute phone call. You and I will have a talk about where you are and where you want to be. The next step after that is to actually put together that retirement income plan, to walk through that core retirement design where we're going to do those three things. We're going to look at the risk in your current portfolio and let you know, here's where you are on a scale of 1 to 100. And then we're going to look at taxes, and we're going to see how can we reduce your overall taxes throughout retirement, not just today, but throughout your whole retirement lifetime. We're going to build a plan around that. And then lastly, the income plan. We want to make sure that you've got a written retirement income plan that's going to get you from here through the rest of your life. Again, it's simple. Give us a call at 863-877-1188 or text the word visit to 863-877-1188.
With the amount of uncertainty taking place in our world today, the economy, the market uptick and the market downturn, there's a lot of questions that many retirees have faced over the last couple of months. Interestingly, Philip and his team have been here throughout the entire season of seeing the ups and the downs of what retirement plans can look like today. This is your opportunity to get off the sidelines and get your questions answered. You're listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. For more information, reach out to Philip and his team at 863-877-1188. You're listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be right back. There's more on the other side of the break.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly doesn't. With fears of a potential recession and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? Here in the Sebring area, financial advisor Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services have seen uncertainty come and go. Philip can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 863-877-1188 now to meet with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. Call 863-877-1188 and schedule your visit today. 863-877-1188. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
How much is left on your to-do list this week? What about that honey-do list of chores around the house? It's a mile long, right? I already know. The problem with long lists is that they can overwhelm you and cause you to shut down. So let's keep it simple. Welcome back, everyone, to the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm your host, Danielle J. Martin, alongside Philip Statler, the founder and president of Statler Financial Services. Philip, we're going to be talking now about the 3 topics that people should be having on our retirement planning list. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's break it down. What are the top 3 topics?
So I think the top 3 topics that I look at when it comes to planning for your retirement is probably number 1 on the list is income. Where's your income going to come from? How are you going to get the income you need to enjoy your retirement for 20, 25, 30 years down the road, right? That's a long time not to be working and get a paycheck. So we need to have a realistic, a written retirement income plan in place so that we've got that track to run on. We know where our income's coming from and we're good with the numbers that are coming in there. The second thing is risk. Too many people, when they retire, don't switch gears. They keep doing what they've always been doing, which they put all their money in a growth portfolio. And there's nothing wrong with a growth portfolio, but when you're heading into retirement, what you cannot afford to do is to have another 2008 loss hit your portfolio. I'm talking 30 to 50% decline. That's what you can't afford to have done. And so that's where you need to make sure the amount of risk you have in your portfolio is diversified properly between things that are safe, things that are at risk, and then the risk portfolio, make sure it's allocated properly as well. So risk is the second thing. You want to make sure it lines up with the amount of risk you should have. heading into retirement. You got to switch gears. The third thing is taxes. I think people actually forget that there's a tax due when they take money out of their retirement accounts. And that number can be big, depending on how much you're taking out. And so we want to be cognizant of that. We want to make sure that you understand that when you pull money out, Uncle Sam is sitting there with his hands out, and he wants his share every time you take money out. And so we want to be tax efficient with our portfolios. We want to be tax efficient with our income planning strategies. And we want to be tax efficient with our whole retirement planning process. And so I think these are the three main things that need to be on people's retirement planning.
Okay, Philip, so you mentioned income, risk, and taxes. Now explain, why should these topics be included when we're planning for retirement?
So I think if we look at the number one is income, but because let's face it, back in the day, people would have a pension. They would have Social Security, and then they would have whatever they saved. In today's environment, less and less people are going to actually have any kind of pension coming in. I'm going to say probably less than 50% of the folks out there are going to have some kind of pension when they actually retire. And so what that means is it puts a burden on you, the retiree, to put together your own pension plan, making sure that you've got money coming in on a monthly basis. So now we look at Social Security as a big deal, a lot of income coming in. The second thing is we've got to create our own income stream. How do we do that? Well, we do that through our income planning process to make sure that the people have the income they need. We make sure that it's adjusted for inflation to keep up with those type of things, even though that's kind of an unknown out there. But that's the big thing about income planning. I think the other thing is when we look at risk, again, risk needs to line up with where you are in life. And when we get to retirement, it's not the time to be having 100% of your portfolio sitting in the market. And so too many folks head into retirement and they don't switch gears. They don't change the way that they manage their portfolio, look at their portfolio. And that's one of the key aspects of working with somebody, that their primary focus is retirement income planning. It's a different animal. It's a different strategy than when you are working and having to grow your money. So that's a big deal when it comes to risk. And then third is taxes, making sure that, that we're paying the least amount of taxes, not necessarily today, but over your retirement lifetime and over the retirement and the lifetime of your family, to make sure that overall you're paying the least amount of taxes possible. And so we take a look at that, and that's a big part of our core retirement design. And to get started, it's easy, Danielle. All they have to do is give us a call at 863-877-1188 for our core retirement analysis. It's a 30-minute phone call. It's you and I talking about things that are important to you, where you are, where you want to be, and what you're doing yourself to get there, and how we might be able to help you get there faster. Again, that number is 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
This is the time to speak with someone. There's a lot of uncertainty happening around the world, but your retirement plan does not have to be unstable or uncertain. Take the time. There's no cost or obligation. Talk with Philip and his team. Call that number, 863-877-1188. Again, that's 863-877-1188. Philip, I appreciate you breaking down all of the things of the topics of a retirement plan and why it's important, because if we're feeling overwhelmed by retirement, or we're just concerned that we don't have enough to prepare for it, a lot of people have questions about this. What can we do if we do feel overwhelmed, if we do feel a little uncertainty about making sure if we have enough in our savings? What can we do?
Well, I think that probably, Danielle, the biggest thing is have a plan, right? Because one of the things that I've realized over time is that folks that have a plan are more certain about how their retirement is going to go. Obviously, there's bumps in the road, things happen, but having that plan gives them some certainty. And that takes away some of those concerns, because now you've got enough to get through retirement. And so I think that's the key is having that plan in place.
There's also that question that many people have is, how do we know if we've saved enough to retire? It's maybe not the top question, but it's on majority of our minds, is knowing, okay, have I saved enough? The number one thing that we hear in retirees is that they are afraid to run out of money. So how do you teach your clients or help your clients know if they've saved enough to retire?
Well, I think it's, people a lot of times to me ask the wrong question, and they'll ask, do I have enough to retire? And that's really the wrong question. We need to look at it a little differently. We need to look at, what am I going to spend in retirement?
Yeah.
And once we know what we're going to have in expenditures, what does that look like? Then we can work backwards and say, okay, yes, we have enough, or unfortunately, no, you don't have enough. And we need to create a strategy, if we haven't retired yet, to increase that amount, or you got to be willing to live off of less income in retirement. And so, and the one thing I would tell people is this: do things in a realistic manner, right? Don't go in and undercut your expenses. I think, well, I won't have that expense, or I won't have that expense. Folks, it never happens that way. Folks end up usually spending more money in retirement than they anticipated. So make sure when you are putting together that budget that you are realistic about the expenses that you're going to incur, the amount you're going to want for travel, the things you're going to want to buy, that motor home or that boat to go fishing, or that travel trailer. Those are the things you have to be honest with yourself when you're putting together that budget, because that's the biggest downfall I see, is people are not honest with themselves when they create that budget for retirement, Danielle.
That's right. And it kind of leads you to the question of what are my options for generating income in retirement? So I'm not in this space of worry or fear. And so I'm sure you sit down with your clients and give them options on, this is how you can invest. This is other ways you can generate some income. Can you kind of go through those options so we can just remind our listeners, these are some ways that you can generate income in retirement?
Absolutely. So there are various ways when we create an income planning process. I'm a big believer in a bucket approach. We create buckets of money, where we're going to draw from, how long we're going to draw out of that bucket from that standpoint. Here's what I will tell you is that we look at taking everything and diversifying between a couple of different things. One, we want to diversify between things that are principal protected versus at risk in the market. We need both. And so that's the first strategy, is what does that diversification look like? And so that becomes a big deal. One of the things that you have to look at when it comes to income is looking at annuities. They were created for that one specific purpose, is to help folks create the income they're going to need over their lifetime. And there's been a lot of studies done now that have come out and said, look, if I just add a small chunk to the annuity aspect of income, that I can have a bigger withdrawal rate over my lifetime. That's a huge deal. Mm-hmm. So we need to be open to all those things. Now, obviously, when we look at those things, there are pros and cons to everything. I mean, you can be in the stock market, and the pro is you can have some great gains. The con is that, hey, you could be down 20, 30, 40% before you know it. And so that's a big deal. Annuities. Hey, they may be safe and protected from downward losses if you're using index type annuities or fixed type annuities. However, there's some liquidity issues, right? You can't take all your money out at one time. It's you got a strategy there, whether it's a 5-year, 7-year, 10-year aspect, but you got to be willing to hang in there for that period of time. So there's different things that you have to be aware of, the pros and cons of every type of investment vehicle that's out there.
Really quick, as before we head into break, Philip, if we can just go into, how is retirement income planning different from simply planning to take withdrawals? We just recently talked about it a little bit, but there's a difference in a retirement income plan than taking withdrawals from your retirement savings as needed. Can you go into what's the difference?
You're so right, Danielle, because here's the deal. I call people that take their money out and just withdrawals, it's like opening up the junk drawer at home, right? You got a bunch of stuff,
right?
You got a bunch of accounts. You may have this brokerage account over here, this annuity over there. Maybe you got an IRA or 401k over here. and you're taking money from something to meet your needs, but you don't have a plan to put it all together.
Right.
And that's where I look at a bucket approach or guardrail approach to what does that look like? Where's my money coming from month in and month out? And for how long is it going to last? And that's the question you need to ask yourself. Do I have it written down? Can I look at it and say, this is where my money's coming from for this period of time before I have to switch buckets? Folks, that's a big deal. And again, that's why I created the core retirement design to help people design that retirement they always dreamed of. Folks, give me a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to schedule your core retirement analysis.
We like to remind you here on the show, you do not have to plan for retirement alone, so do not hesitate to call Philip and his team at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Now, if you have a healthy balance in your retirement accounts, that's a great job, but a healthy balance isn't an income plan. We're going to explain that coming up next here on the show. We'll be right back.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly doesn't. With fears of a potential recession and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? Here in the Sebring area, financial advisor Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services have seen uncertainty come and go. Philip can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 863-877-1188 now to meet with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. Call 863-877-1188 and schedule your visit today. 863-877-1188. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
I want to help you understand some things. Number one, timing of your RMD, because they can potentially push you into a higher tax bracket. Imagine how fast your savings could shrink if you rack up penalties along with taking regular withdrawals and paying taxes.
Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm your host, Danielle J. Martin, alongside Philip Statler, the president and founder of Statler Financial Services. Now we're talking about just because you have a healthy balance in your retirement savings account, that doesn't mean that you have an income plan. You still have some work to do. So this is why Philip is here. Philip, let's get into some of the risks that we need to be aware of to help preserve our income in retirement.
Absolutely, Danielle. So when we look at income in retirement, it's having that plan in place, right? Where is your money going to come from in retirement? And so I look at it a little differently than a lot of folks do. I look at a bucket approach. Here's one thing I know is that if you have everything in the market, then if the market declines, you have to be willing to take a pay cut over a period of time. And that's not a good place for a retiree to be. Now, I will say this, you need to have some money in the market. No doubt about it. A lot of folks have more money in the market than they should have. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say that when we look at a risk scale of 1 to 100, a lot of people come in at their portfolios that are much higher risk than they should be in retirement. About 60% of the folks out there have too much risk in their portfolio. There's another 25 or 30% that don't have enough risk. They have it all sitting in CDs or all in money market accounts, and they have no risk exposure at all. That's not good either. And there's about 10, 15% of the folks, they've got it right. They've got it exactly where they need to be. And so that's what you have to look at when it comes to income planning is what does that diversification look like? How do I have my assets diversified? And do I have a written retirement income plan? If it's not written, then it's not a plan. And you got to have it written down so you have something to follow to see, am I on track for where I need to be? And that, to me, that's a big deal, Danielle.
It is a big deal. And speaking of a big deal, I know we've talked about this multiple times on this show, Philip, about healthcare. And so what's interesting about healthcare is that the costs are projected to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in retirement. I know we've heard this many times, but Fidelity estimates that a 65-year-old couple can expect to spend $315,000, that's after tax, throughout retirement, but that's not including long-term care. And I wonder if retirees are prepared for this. So this is why you're here, but how can we prepare them for an expense like this?
So anybody that's listened to my show at any time period at all knows that I'm not a fan of this statistic, right? Because it's a valid point, okay? Fidelity is looking at a couple living, I think, 30 years. And so if you take that math down a little bit, that basically says that you're going to spend, as a couple, $10,500 a year in healthcare. Danielle, I just ran some simple numbers. And if you look at the cost of Medicare, Part B, and then you add in there, the prescription drug coverage for Part D, and then you add in your Medicare supplement, you're almost at $10,500 for a couple right there. So I think they put that big number out there to get people's attention, and it does get people's attention. But again, healthcare costs are like no other, or just like any other cost out there. You have to budget for it. And it all comes down back to that problem of income planning, having that written retirement income plan and using a realistic budget. And these are the numbers that have to be in that budget is your healthcare cost. If you leave that out, you're opening yourself up for failure when it comes to income planning. And we don't want anybody to fail when it comes to income.
There's no cost or obligation to speak with Philip and his team, so don't hesitate to call that number, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. You do not have to plan for retirement alone, so you don't have to do that. Philip, as we continue talking about this topic on the things that you need on your retirement planning list, I want to kind of pivot here on the amount of times that many of us tend to overlook taxes as we're planning for retirement. I think sometimes we're going to wake up one day and be like, it's a dream. You don't have to, we can avoid it someday. How often do people overlook taxes, especially as they're planning for retirement?
Yes, it's funny, Danielle, because probably at least once a year, I'll get a call from somebody that says, hey, Philip, I'm retiring. So this will be the last year I have to file a tax return. That could be the farthest thing from the truth. Now, it could be that, yes, you are fortunate enough that all you get Social Security, and so maybe you won't have to file a tax return. But that's not, at least that's not the majority of folks I see who have IRAs and have investment accounts. Those folks are pretty much always going to have to file a return and pay taxes. And I think that's what folks forget is that, hey, when you pull money out of your IRA, it's a taxable event.
Right.
And it affects a lot of things. One, obviously, you got to pay tax on that money you pull out. It can affect how much your Social Security is taxable. And so we look at part of our core retirement design is we look at how can we minimize that? Maybe not today, but how can we minimize that over the lifetime that you're going to be here? We want to look at taxes not today, tomorrow, next week, but we want to look at them 25 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, are you paying less in tax than if you did no planning at all? And a lot of that comes down to looking at Roth conversions, looking at some other avenues that we can use to maybe pay some tax today at a lower rate than what we may have to pay down the road. Again, it takes some planning. It takes some tools to come to those planning processes. But I see too many people that they file a return, they're in a 0% tax bracket, and they're excited. However, eventually they're going to start taking more money out of their IRA, which may bump them up into a higher tax bracket. I hate it when I see people wasting a 0% tax bracket. You could be taking money out of your IRA, maybe paying 0% tax out of it, maybe paying 10% tax on it. It depends on, putting together that plan. And that's, I love to do that to help people minimize their taxes over their lifetime. It can be painful sometimes in the first couple of years if you're having to pay tax and you're not used to it. But if I can pay 10% now, I'd rather do that than have to pay 20, 30% later.
That's right. And as we're speaking on taxes, Philip, if you can just explain also the difference between tax preparation and having a tax efficient strategy for your retirement income plan, because they're two completely different things.
Two completely different things. You're absolutely correct. So tax preparation is simply a historic event, right? It's taking whatever happened last year and recording it on the tax return and sending it to Uncle Sam and paying or getting a refund, one of the two. And so that's the deal. There's no planning in that. That's just preparing your return. Having a tax efficient strategy is sitting down and being proactive with your planning process. That means looking at what tax rates are this year. What are they are next year? What are they going to be in 2026? Does it make sense to take extra money out of tax deferred accounts like IRAs, maybe some annuities, in order to pay some tax today at a lower rate than what I might have to pay later? And it's actually putting together a plan. And so that's one of the things that we do in our core retirement design is we put together a tax plan. How can we reduce our overall taxes? And if we can, eventually get folks in a 0% tax bracket. Obviously, we got to pay some tax somewhere, so we pay it up front at a lower rate so that we don't have to pay anything. Doesn't work for everybody. Everybody's different. So before you start messing around with Roth conversions and tax strategies, make sure you sit down with somebody that's qualified tax professional that can walk you through the process and let you know exactly what the tax impacts are going to be. Example, I met with some clients the other day or prospects the other day. They got blindsided last year because they had this huge, huge tax bill that they weren't expecting. They expected some, but not what they got. Somebody tried to take basically 25% of their IRA and convert to a Roth all at one time. It was painful. Not only that, their Medicare premiums are going to skyrocket this next year in 2025 to the highest they can be. And so that's the other thing you have to be cognizant of is that when you start taking extra money out, your Medicare premium is an income-based premium. If your income goes up too high, your premium is going to go up in the year after you file your tax return. People don't realize that. That's all part of our planning process, Danielle, our core retirement design and income planning process. Folks, give us a call, 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to get started on your core retirement analysis.
If you have any questions about retirement, do not hesitate to call Philip and his team at Statler Financial Services. They are here to guide you through a successful retirement. Again, that number is 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. You're listening to the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Do you have a retirement plan but would like a second opinion? Call Philip Statler today, 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815.
surprise parties can be fun. Financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services and schedule a no-cost retirement double check at 863-877-1188. Philip and his team have seen their fair share of surprises over the years and know how to help you avoid them. Call 863-877-1188 to schedule your no-cost retirement double check with Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Call 863-877-1188 now. That's 863-877-1188. You can also visit StatlerFinancial.com for more info. Advisory services are offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly doesn't. With fears of a potential recession and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? Here in the Sebring area, financial advisor Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services have seen uncertainty come and go. Philip can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 863-877-1188 now to meet with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. Call 863-877-1188 and schedule your visit today. 863-877-1188. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Sounds like the mailman's here.
It's time to answer questions from the Statler Financial Mailbag.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Statler Financial Radio Show. I'm your host, Danielle J. Martin, along with Philip Statler. He is the president and founder of Statler Financial Services. You know, Philip gets questions each and every week about all things retirement. So, Philip, I decided let's go in and, let's check in with our Statler Financial Radio Show mailbag to go over some common retirement questions. Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely, Danielle. Let's see what we got today.
Okay, let's see. So we're going to dive in. We have one from Bill from Avon Park. He says, I'm about to retire and I'm wondering if I should pay off my home first.
Bill, that's a good question. And it's one that's can be easy to answer, but let's talk about it from this standpoint. When we talk about paying off our house, a couple of things we need to know first that I don't have in front of me. And that is, what is your current interest rate on your home? And how much longer do you have to pay it off? And that would be a big deal. And so we would look at that. And then secondly, do you plan on staying here for the rest of your life in retirement? That's something we need to know to understand if that makes sense or not to pay off your house. Typically, though, I would say that if you're paying 3% or less on your mortgage, or even 3.5%, then you probably want to keep it, because typically you should be able to earn more than that in terms of investment. Even CDs right now, you think about, are paying more than that. So there are ways that you can make more than that. You definitely want to keep the mortgage and not take your hard-earned money and pay it off.
Really good insights there, Philip. And Bill, thank you so much for your question. Okay, Philip, let's see who's next. We have one from Scott from Lake Passett. He says, I've been hearing a lot about Roth IRAs. I'm wondering if I should do a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA. Good question.
Good question. Hey, Scott, hold just one second. I want to go back to the other question. It just dawned on me one thing real quick. If you are planning on taking money out of a 401k or an IRA to pay off your home, a lot of times that is not a smart move because of the tax consequences. So I just wanted that just came to me as I was finishing up answering that question. So, all right, Scott, let's talk more about taxes, right? As we move into whether we should do IRAs or Roth IRAs. A lot of that is, what tax bracket are you in? I'm a firm believer, I personally I use Roth IRAs. And I'll tell you why, because I feel like right now we are in the lowest tax brackets that we're going to see. Probably in my lifetime. I doubt that we'll see anything lower over my lifetime. So I'm putting money in Roth IRAs. And so I think that makes a lot of sense based on where tax rates are going to go. Now, there are some things that I think people can also start to think about when we're talking about traditional and Roth IRAs. A lot of people have money in their 401ks. They're going to roll those out to their IRAs when they get ready to retire. It's not a bad idea to start running some numbers to see, does it make sense to do some Roth conversions? Now, when you do a Roth conversion, they're not free. You have to pay the taxes on that money that you convert from your traditional IRA to the Roth. So think about that. If you say, I'm going to move $25,000 from my traditional IRA to my Roth IRA, right? And I'm at a 10% tax bracket. Well, I can expect I'm going to have to pay at least $2,500 in taxes on that transfer. That may even push you into a higher tax bracket, which would push you up even higher. So you have to run the math. It's one of the things that we do in our core retirement design is run through a whole Roth scenario to see what the timeline would look like for folks. Because it also affects taxability of Social Security. If you do too much, it can make your Medicare premiums higher. There are all kinds of landmines out there that you got to be aware of when we start talking about Roth conversions, Danielle.
You know, Philip, I know a lot of retirees have questions about this, so definitely don't hesitate to give Philip and his team a call at 863-877-1188. Again, that's 863-877-1188. Philip, thank you for those insights. Okay, let's dive into our mailbag again. We have another question from Dan and Sally from Sebring. They say, I'm tired of being a landlord on my properties, but I'm not sure if I should sell them. So what are some of the pros and cons to renting out property as a supplement for retirement income?
Well, I would say let's start with the first part of your question here, because here's the deal. I kind of agree with you. It's easy to become tired of being a landlord. I was one for a while, and I don't think I'll ever be one again. It can be a problem, and I get that.
Right.
But here's what I want you to think about. Is the property paid for? I mean, I probably have more questions that need answers than before I can really tell you what direction to go. But here's some things to think about. Is the property paid for? If there's no mortgage on the property, then it's pure, rent money coming in. Granted, you still got to pay property tax, you got to pay insurance, and obviously you got to maintain them. But it would be nice to know, if they're paid for, that poses one issue. Because rental income is a nice cash flow, right? It's good. It's got good taxability. It's, it can be not all taxable. So because you got depreciation of the house. So there's some neat things there that you can do with real estate. Obviously, when you sell it, you have to think about the capital gains you're going to have to pay. What's that going to look like? What's it going to put you in a different tax bracket? How's that going to affect the taxability of your Social Security? I've had people sell property and all of a sudden their Medicare premiums skyrocket because that's income. And it plays a role in the how much they have to pay in terms of Medicare Part B premiums and how much of their Social Security ends up being taxable. So it's not just a simple, should I sell them or should I keep them? If you're tired of the landlord deal, there's always a management company. Hire a management company. Let them manage it. Let them take the headaches. Mm-hmm. It costs you a little bit of money, but if there's no mortgage and they're positive cash flow, that might be the answer to your question there, guys. Take a look at that.
Philip, I know many retirees have questions about all of these different topics that we're talking about today. And with the remaining time that we have, I want to spend a little bit more time on this core retirement design that you and your team have crafted, specially and specifically for retirees. Tell us what's inside.
Absolutely, Danielle. So our core retirement design, we worked hard to build this out. And so it starts with risk. How much risk does your portfolio have? And how much risk should it have based on your risk tolerance, your risk number on a scale of 1 to 100? Where do you land? How close are you to retirement? What's your age? And so those things all go into consideration to determine how much risk you should have in your portfolio. And I will tell you this, Danielle, of all the folks that I've met with, I'm going to say probably 60% of the folks I meet with have too much risk in their portfolio. There's another almost 30% of the folks out there who don't have enough risk in their portfolio. So it's not there's people that don't have enough. And there's about 10% of the folks out there that have about the right amount of risk in that portfolio. So the second thing we want to look at is taxability. What do taxes look like in retirement? We want to do our best to reduce your long-term tax obligation for you, your spouse, and your beneficiaries. So we look at that component. And then lastly, we look at income, because income creates a confident retirement. And so we have developed a written retirement income plan that shows us here's where the money's going to come from. Social Security, pension, and here's the amount we have to make up. Here's what it looks like. Here's where it's going to come from. We look at buckets and what bucket money's coming from when. That's our core retirement design. When it's all put together, folks are confident about their retirement. Give us a call at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188 to start with your core retirement analysis.
You know, Philip, I always appreciate our time together. You always make retirement planning sound so easy. So thank you again for your time today. Now, if you have any questions about retirement, again, do not hesitate to call Philip and his team at Statler Financial Services. They are here to guide you through a successful retirement. Again, do not hesitate to call Philip and his team at 863-877-1188. That's 863-877-1188. Now, thanks again for tuning into the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll catch you next week.
Needing a second opinion on your retirement plan or to see if you're paying more than your fair share to Uncle Sam? Schedule your complimentary visit today. Text VISIT to 863-877-1188. That's VISIT to 863-877-1188.
Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. This radio show is a paid placement.
Who likes uncertainty? Wall Street certainly doesn't. With fears of a potential recession and partisan politics, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. What will your future look like? Will your taxes go up? Will your savings go down? Here in the Sebring area, financial advisor Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services have seen uncertainty come and go. Philip can help you create a plan designed to preserve your finances in uncertain times. And it's not a matter of if those uncertain times will show up, but when. Call 863-877-1188 now to meet with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. Call 863-877-1188 and schedule your visit today. 863-877-1188. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.